Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone's fantastic. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, Anissa. Good morning, Christoph. Good morning, people filtering in the background. Thank you for tuning in. Had a nice little bounce, triggered the percent B buys yesterday with the close above Friday's highs. So follow through. Again, that's why I was watching yesterday's highs, and now it's definitely to see how far the bounce will go. Good morning, Sterling. Uh, we had Barkin speaking a while ago. The only thing he mentioned that I saw that was interesting was, stressing again that the Fed has to hit 2% inflation to maintain credibility. Coming up, well, actually, where's my Red Book numbers? They're not coming up. They were released. Their Red Book actually a bounce. Finally, another bounce. 2.9. It's been very weak, but the second month of bounce existing home sales comes out in an hour. Richmond Fed manufacturing and services comes out at 9. And we got Goolsby and Bowman speaking this afternoon. So still a very quiet day going into Jackson Hole later in the week. NVIDIA and Tesla really, all the Magnificent Seven or the Big Five, whichever ones you follow, were strong yesterday. But Nvidia going into earnings was insanely strong, and Tesla with the bounce play, but the mega caps leading the charge back higher. So remember, Nvidia earnings tomorrow afternoon. I believe it's priced in for about, with the options market is predicting about a 10% move up or down. So that is very substantial on that stock. You see here pretty much everything. Let's just still see everything is positive. Technology, consumer, cyclical leading the way higher. We're definitely in risk off mode. There's no sense. The other interesting thing is if you notice where the cursor is for the November, we're back to roughly 40% odds for a rate hike. 40%. Let me just refresh it once more, see if that dropped at all. But it's roughly 40%. So not in September, but in November, we're edging up closer to that 40%, and actually close to 5% for a 50 basis point hike. So, which is not going to happen. But that's keep watching. This is the current one to keep watching right there. Fear and greed. This should bounce today into the open back. So never got to full fear mode, still in neutral mode. So that's where we sit. Good morning, options 22, still overseas options. Hey, Richard, oversold, says Coco. We had Macy's. Interesting. They did a beat. They were down. They are actually had to note that the charge-offs on a lot of delinquencies on their credit cards rising faster than expected. So that was interesting. Lowe's is up, and Lowe's also has a double bottom pattern. Lowe's is up on a beat in earnings, a slight miss on revenue, and Dick's was way down with very poor guidance. After the close, it's really just Toll Brothers. Tomorrow before the open, you got Peloton, Advanced Auto Parts, Kohl's, Analog Devices. So that's where we sit. And then remember, after the close, that's going to be the most important one this week is NVIDIA. So let's get to the markets. I want to touch on a couple things real quick that I forgot. Speaking of NVIDIA, but I forgot to mention that we hit on Friday the full target for the double in AMD. Now we're going to watch to see where the snapback rally takes us. So my key area watching for the snapback is, if it does continue, is between about 117 to 121. Just a key little thing there. NVIDIA, just a touch. I mean, this was a very interesting move. The percent B buy was back, by the way, on Monday the 14th. Then would I be chasing this? It looks like it's going to be taking out the highs today. So it did close above 62.5. It already hit the 87 yesterday. If you want, this is still a weekly potential double top going into earnings. Could very well be off the table today. But the next Minor targets from reverse harmonics 499.89. So 490.38, then 499.89. The next major harmonic, should it pull something miraculous out of its hat for earnings, remember this is priced for beyond perfection, is 522.84. So if you're playing this long, I would be very cognizant of earnings and know where your stops are. Now, S&P. Yesterday, watching yesterday's high or Friday's high, we got the follow through yesterday with the close above it, and then more follow through going into the cash open today, trading against 44.37. If we rally through, this is a pretty key resistance area going into today to 44.8, 44.50, which is the sort of hooking over flattish 250, sorry, the 50 EMA. And you have some key lows just above there, about 44.57. So those are the minor areas I'm watching today. If the rally continues through this week going into Jackson Hole, 44.76 to 44.80 is my next major key level. On the retracement area, the 50% comes in at 44.92. The only thing that gets me in more bullish mode and loosens up the trail slightly is 45.27. Why? Because there's lots of rollover points in here. And the percent B buy when it's against the rotation zone is generally good for a 2 to 3 day bounce. It's nothing major. Now, can it keep going? Can we go in full cocoa mode and go and retest the high areas? Sure, that's why it would be in trailing mode for me, and I'd be watching that 45.27 on a closing basis. That's the same for every one of these indices. Okay, remember, we also have cycles turning up on the daily. We have cycles trying to bottom on the weekly, and we hit the bottom of the rotation zone. But the nature has definitely shifted. This was waning momentum. We at least got a 3-week pullback, and now it really has to prove itself on the recovery. Morning, Alan. Thank you for being here. So that's my exact analysis of any of the financials. You see the NASDAQ, we again, percent B buy. 15,100, we have a level that was highlighted yesterday. We've already hit that pre-market. Next minor area in this I'm watching is 15.2. It's just where it happens to come in. Nothing magic about 15.2. And then I am bumping. If we get a close above 15.2, minor would be 15.280, but the major area would be 15.336. What does it need on the closing basis? 15.518 roughly. That's where I would start then widening a potential to giving it a little more breathing room, because we could be retesting the high areas from the end of July. But it's got to prove itself before it gets there. The Dow, not much. The Dow has a potential double bottom. If this rotates down once more, it's a triple bottom. It would need a 4-hour close below 34,709 to trigger. It's not even been confirmed yet. So if it rolls over, it turns into a triple bottom. So far, the Dow is doing just a sideways correction with the declining rotation zone. All right. So that's where we sit there with the Russell. Little flagging pattern. You can see here. This is not, I don't believe this was in double territory. Nope, it was not. This is the channeling flag pattern for the Russell. So the target area, should it start getting above, especially on a closing basis above about 1873, I'd be watching for in the short term today. The Russell's also struggling, but I'd be watching for anything between 1880 and the top of this little flagging channel. You also have cycles turning up on the daily, and you look just above there, look where all the area is with the declining rotation zone. So this would be a key target area if it stays on a bounce mode for the Russell. Other than that, with the Dow and the Russell, I'm watching for the support coming in. The Russell, the key support, still 1850 and then 1838. The Dow, by the way, there's a lot of buying pressure around this 34,350 area. NASDAQ, for the support things, I would just be watching for yesterday's close. If it does turn around, and the same with the S&P. Yesterday's closing area is going to be key. The VIX dropping below the 17, but still, so that was pretty bullish reversal yesterday in the VIX. We did not have broad participation. Yesterday's the Magnificent Seven made up about 94% of the rally. The remaining 500 or 494 stocks in the S&P 500 made up only 6% of the rally. So it was not a broad participation. And we still have elevated. Not saying the rally can't continue. It's in trailing mode from the buys. But the VIX really has to start coming down again, and it could stay elevated going into Jackson Hole. DAX, little bounce back here. Cycles turning up. The next key area is this 15,930. Support coming in right around the major support on any pullback, 15,750. Notes, very interesting, came down. We had 108.28 as a harmonic. That's the low area. Little bounce off of this. Little bounce. But this double, goodbye, never triggered or confirmed. And you see here, this is a very key support area, retesting October's lows, which ignited started the rally in the stocks, which have continued this year. So really pay attention to this should it break. I'm expecting there to be a fair amount of support in here. Since we hit this, the only pausing bar, it's not the strongest pause yet, but I will be watching. Should we break down? My next major area is 108.2 to 107.25 for the next major area, and I'll refine that over the next little bit. The 10-year yield, you see, took out the 4.326 from last October. So yield actually made a new high. Little return rotation zone, rotation up. Okay, so the 10-year yield still climbing. That's definitely in trail mode. The 2 years still has not broken through. You see even the March highs. So it's trying to base here. It's trying to base and build a triple top base. And I'm going to be watching to see if this breaks out too. 10-2s, rough, just stalling close to that double target. Yeah, it looks like a triple on the daily, but remember it was a double on the weekly. And that's just interesting because on the closing basis, daily closing basis, once we get through 57.5 basis points is 52.54 to continued bear steepening. Dollar index. I think this is one of the most important markets to watch right now. You see, we've had a flagging pattern come back on the 4-hour, now breaking higher in the last little bit. Breaking higher in the last little bit. So, going to be watching to see where this reacts just in the short term, the minor short term today. I'm going to see where it closes in relation to 103.08, trading above there right now, but I'm going to watch to see if it closes above there. It closes above there. I'm watching for a retest of the high area. But this one's key because this can be still the dollar wrecking ball. And you see here it's basing at the top of the channel. It really gets some momentum and breaks out. That could be a dampening move on the markets overall. Now, please note we are at the top of a weekly cycle and we're turning down the daily cycle, but so far it's basing sideways. Crude, we had the 4-hour double triggered, and then no follow through. So, but no stop raise yet. Either if it trades below 79.48, the pattern is invalidated, or if we get a 4-hour close below about 79.75 on a closing basis, it's invalidated. So not yet invalidated, but it's close. It's almost close to being invalidated and entry stop out without a stop raise, but not yet. So that's the bullish thing I'm watching for. If it does not follow through, I'll be watching for a pullback to the lows, the 78.90 to 79. If that breaks, I'm watching for a bigger pullback to the test of the most recent other breakout area. If that breaks, it looks like any rally in crude is at least put on hold for the key, the top term, and this would just be a pullback to the first rotation zone, cross rotation zone on the weekly. Gold, we had this ran up confirming, then this invalidated it. If you were still watching for something on gold, the first target would be hit, but this confirmed, triggered on this basis, but it was already invalidated with this rotation down. So once it's confirmed, you essentially treat it as a confirmed double. If it comes back down but not triggered, it would be invalidated because it turned into a triple bottom. It's just interesting to see how it came up reacting to that first target area. So that's the only thing I was keeping an eye on with gold. That does not mean that it's not still trying to put in a bottom here. This is the first reaction to the rotation zone. I'm still watching this area for a bottom unless we solidly start getting through about 1910 to the downside. This is interesting too. The 10-year JGBs, Japanese government bonds, still breaking higher, pausing at the next minor harmonic. 68.2 is next major harmonic. Okay, we still have the little potential double top, but it looks like that's going to fall away before it's ever confirmed or triggered. Still watching for potential intervention, but this is going to be put pressure on the carry trade unwind. And we still have the little mini potential double top, but not triggered or confirmed. The key resistance area is still this 146.30. 33, 34, 35 area. We break through that with any momentum, 147.30. I'm still watching, unless this double triggers, I'm still watching for upside price action in the US dollar, Japanese yen. Euro, coming back down here. If this key area is 108.50 area breaks, watching, I think this is going to be a magnet too. The bottom of the channel and 62.5 and the 200, but I need this key support to break, which is still not broken. The pound still has a potential double bottom in it, but not triggered. If it rotates back down, that will be off the table without ever triggering or confirming. Bitcoin, after the big sell-off on last Thursday, still basing. I'm still watching the key 24,750. We already looked at NVDA, Tesla. Now I'll get to the spiders and the Qs. Tesla, snapback rally. It's now trading 240. Key resistance 240.70. And then we have a major cluster about 245. So if anybody, from my perspective, I would be aggressively raising a stop if you're trying to play a bounce, especially if it hits 245. It needs, then if it goes through there, 255.83, 266.69 on a closing basis in order for the bull move to continue, but I will be watching for a rollover play in that. The spiders and the Qs. Spiders, next key level. This was also the percent B buy on it with the follow through to close because it broke above the high from Friday, then followed through with the close. 441.40, 442.90, 443.90 are the key targets. Okay, I'm really watching if it does get through this 441.40 441.50 area. The target I would be utilizing next is this 442.80 to 442.90 area. On support, I would keep an eye on yesterday's close. If it does roll over anytime after the open, remember we got some Fed speak this afternoon. Yesterday's close is going to be key. So, especially for that gap fill. The Qs. Again, percent B buy. We're opening above 365.43, so that would turn into about 365.40 to 365.25 would be first level support. Then it would be the 363.90, which is yesterday's close, are the key support levels. Next resistance is 367.90 to about 368.70. Then you're looking at 370.46. All right, what else do we have here? Let me see. Bruh wants Dix. Earnings this morning. And where does that sit? Where does the Dix sit? The Dix is all the way back down, brutalized. Horrible guidance, horrible numbers coming out, back below the 200. On a closing basis, it's 118.48. 118.48. You close below there, I'd be focused on longer term, a return to about 105. And you still have a gap left down just below that. But that's key. If it can bounce back and close above 118.48, any upside target would be 121.65 area, then about 125 to about 126. Then I'd watch for a rollover play. That's only if it can close above 118.48. Other than that, longer term, I would not be holding this in the bullish sense. I'd be watching for more downside price action. Well, before you also see on the weekly basis. See on the weekly basis below all the key moving averages besides the 200 week, and that's a long way off. So we could easily retest the October lows from last year before it at least finds a more substantial base. I'd be careful with Dix from anything from the long side. Yield new highs but tech rallying can both continue at the same time. Remember, we have you're getting the rush back into NVDA and Tesla, which are the two most heavily played from the option standpoint. Can it continue? Yeah, because you know what? The market's still living on juice. Can it continue long term? I don't think so. But nothing's, even with this bounce in the market, I mean, it has to get above, it has some heavy lifting to do. Some heavy lifting. Now, it could behave somewhat like it did back in April and May, basing sideways, building a base. It doesn't have to bounce back, but unless it can get back above that 45.27, the 62.5 on all these markets, I'm watching for either consolidation or a rollover. And I'm preferring a rollover play. So, can it continue? I mean, yes, last week we even said, last Friday I said I was watching for a bounce starting this week after options expiration. We've got yesterday, we had the percent B buys. We are following through a bit today. Even if we were to close back still down and above yesterday's high, it can still bounce going in. But this isn't for a long term. Back up the truck and buy everything because you have insanity like with NVIDIA going into earnings. I've been doing, I worry about the longer term ones. Does that matter? I just watch, you can watch it either way. I was doing some testing with the way they're doing the rollover adjustments, and it's not coming out as high probabilities I like, so I am not using that right now. What the heck is going on with NVIDIA? Again, it's where all the short-term option plays. It's now even taking over from Tesla a bit. But if you look, the insanity on NVIDIA is going to continue. Came back into the weekly rotation zone. rotating up. It's got a potential double top, which could be invalidated. But if this misses earnings, it's got a 10% move based off the options right now. Let's just call it, if this rallies to even 500 or just shy of 500, that could be a 50-point move just off the earnings. A $50 move, I should say. So it's still the juice. That's where everybody's focusing on. Because all this stuff has died. Remember, with the ruling from AMC, look, the AMC apes had to find something else. So it's now they become the NVDA nuts. We have the apes turning into nuts. Because this is the new play on the block. Let's rush into NVIDIA options. But would I be chasing this? No. P to E 225, again, is priced into perfection. Is priced beyond perfection. Can it continue? Yeah. But it's not a safe play from my sense unless you're very aggressive and manage to stop very tightly. All right, market's open. I got to run into the open. Just seeing if we have any decent pullback levels. If it does pull back about 44.20, 44.22 on the S&P going in the open with that, I need to jump. So I will talk to everyone later. Bye for now.